Yes, thank you, Hashim. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, so one thing I would like to share with you today that I am remote. So maybe I could have a disconnection during the presentation. So never mind, I will be connecting quickly. So because I am on my mobile data.
We understand.
So should we start?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So and can you see my screen?
Yes, I can see.
Okay. So today's agenda point is about the AWS cloud technology, uh, some tools relevant to storage and DevOps. So we had some discussion about DevOps in previous sessions. We discussed about the microservices in detail, and the basic and the architecture of DevOps and the leverages that DevOps is giving to industry to automate the things, to roll out the things and development process quickly. So today this is basically a sequence that we are following. This is a roadmap to DevOps. So today I decide to talk about. We decide about to talk about AWS storage and DevOps tool. So AWS basically holds plenty of services, but the most impressive technology in term of storage is Amazon S3. Why the name is S3? Basically, this S3 stands for simple storage services. So these are three S. So that's why this is S3. So this is the simplest mean, easy to manage, and you can scale it up to in terabyte and petabyte, and it is easily accessible and highly available. So if you are working on AWS cloud, and if you are anywhere and connected with the internet and you need some storage solution, so AWS could be could be the best option. So because it offers you the most industry leading scalability, mean you don't need to worry about your storage limitations. Mean and the availability of data. They have regions, they have zones. In the cloud, there is a concept of region. Mean region is just like a city, and if there are multiple data center within a city, so those are known as zones. So this is a generic term that is used mostly in all clouds. Either it could be AWS, Azure, or Google, or IBM, or anywhere. So availability mean if you put your data in AWS cloud, so it will be replicated across different regions and across different availability zones, so that if there is some disaster, so data is recoverable by other location, geographically different location. So the security is another aspect, that everything that you will put on AWS storage, that you can encrypt it. If someone tried to steal a hard drive that from AWS data center, so they could not see your data, because this is encrypted and there is an encryption key that can only decrypt your data. And then performance mean the latency, the quickly availability of your data on your doorstep. There is an edge service that can do the caching. Edge service is basically just like, you can say, a small data center residing at the corner of every country, and all the users are basically sending their request to that edge server, edge data centers, and edge data centers are connected with rest of the data centers across the globe, and the most frequently accessible data will be cached in your edge location, and that maximize your performance. And then the design for 99 point up to 11 nines mean it is almost 100% durability, because your data if your data is extremely critical, you can replicate your data across all the data centers in AWS cloud. So the use cases nowadays, the most industries are using for the data lakes. Data lakes mean anything that you can suppose about the data, just like the videos and audios and the scan data and medical sciences, or anything education relevant. So you can put it in AWS, and they provide you the tool to segregate your data in different manner. And then the website hosting is extremely simple. If you just create an account on AWS and you create an S3 bucket. Basically, bucket is a term that is used when you have some storage, S3 storage in your account, AWS account. So you can put your HTML web pages in bucket, and then that is globally available by an IP or a DNS name. And then you can point, and your website is live. And then you can point your main proper DNS name, just like we have spsnet.com, and we put our whole web content in AWS bucket, and we wanted to access it with the name spsnet.com. So we will just make our some changes in our DNS. Our DNS will point to AWS, and we will have our application up and running website. So mobile applications are mostly storing data on the AWS. Backup and restore. This is another thing that if you have some data center, some critical application running, you can run some scripts on your data center that can upload on your account bucket automatically or your daily backed up data at the end of the day. And in case of any disaster, you can quickly restore it in your data center. And then archiving. Archiving mean if you wanted to dump your data for later on usage. So that is also an use case. Enterprise application, if there are millions of users accessing some data, you can rely on Amazon AWS S3. Uh, so IoT. IoT stands for Internet of Things devices, just like your smart devices, just like you have smart refrigerator, smart door, smart electronic devices, just like air conditioner, or any equipment that you have, electronic equipment you have in your home, is getting smart. You can connect those devices with internet nowadays, and those devices are basically providing you some data. I mean, this is happening with your refrigerator. This is the temperature. This is the quantity of eggs placed in the tray of eggs, and so you can do different analytics by using the data. So, in term of IoT devices, the data is huge. So AWS has the tendency to hold this data that is generated by IoT devices. And the big data analytics, then over that data, you can do some analytics, you can make some decisions on the basis of on that data. So this was an overview about the uh, S, S3 offers and use cases. So basically, if you want to proceed with the storage hosting on S3 AWS, so this link provides you the best answers of your question. There are different storage classes, like maybe someone would not like to spend too much on the storage. Just like if someone just have to dump their data, and they may need to recover it after the years, or once in a year, or twice in a year. But there is another user that need to put data frequently and grab the data quickly. Another department need to grab it. So that is a different requirement. So do both have the different requirements, and both should pay the different uh, pricing model. So that's why AWS created different storage classes. So I believe I opened this link. Yeah, this is a link. S3 storage classes. And basically, these are the storage classes: standard, intelligent, tiering, standard infrequent access, one zone infrequent access, glacier, glacier deep archive, and outpost. So standard is one of the most expensive one. Mean all the default settings are applied. Mean it has the best latency, best uptime, best reliability, and quickly available all the time. Quickly you can fetch data anytime. So it has SSL and data replication. You can see the resilient against even that impact on entire availability zone. If one data center goes down, so data is automatically replicated to another availability zone data. So this is the standard edition, but there is another class just like the intelligent tiering. So intelligent tiering is basically most of the 99% of people are using intelligent tiering. Intelligent tiering is basically deciding what type of data you have and what type of storage class, in which type of storage class you should put your data. And it will automatically move your selective data in that specific storage class to save your pricing cost, your billing cost. So if you have millions of files you put on your S3 and you don't know which files are most frequently accessible by the user and which files are just infrequent accessible, so it will automatically segregate your data in different buckets, different types, storage classes, and you will have a different billing model according to your data automatically. So and the next one is just standard infrequent access. Infrequent access is just like you can suppose some hospital, some hospital have or some university college have some record of student, and they just need to put all the data and the record of patient or student in in somewhere, some location, and in exceptional cases, if the same patient visit to the same doctor, so or the same hospital, and they will need that data for references. So some student demand their DMCs or document or any other degree copy, so that is fetchable by, so that is an exceptional case, and that is the infrequent access, and this is the cheapest storage, not the cheapest but the cheap one, and it is replicated, resilient. You can see the its uptime is high and resilient against impact with entire availability zone. Mean all if you select just like Dallas region to or Frankfurt region to selected for your S3 bucket. So all the availability zone will replicate your data, and in case of failure of any data center, you will have your data. And then one zone infrequent access mean this will not replicate. That's why it's 99.5 available over a given year. Mean it could, you could lose your data. There is a 0.5% chance, but they ensure you still the durability, and this data is not replicated. This is a one zone. Uh, One zone and infrequent access. AI stands for infrequent access. So this is the cheapest one. You can say this is the cheapest one, but the thing is, you if you just use select intelligent tiering, it will automatically put your data in standard infrequent access or one zone infrequent access. So, and if we talk about that, then the next is Glacier. Glacier is just like a huge dump of data you wanted to do. So if so for example, if some organization want to um, migrate their whole paper document into scan form and to upload somewhere, so AWS could be a location, and you can upload your data, and you can encrypt it. It is a low cost, and Retrieval time, the difference is the retrieval time is few hour. Mean whenever you will try to hit to read the data, it will not answer you quickly. They will run some script on the back end and they will make it available to give you the time that your data will be available after this many time. So that's why it could depend on your requirement, that either you wanted to get, if you put your backup data in Glacier and you have a disaster and you wanted to recover it, you could not recover it quickly. And then next one is deep archive. Archive recovery time is 12 hours. The Glacier has some hours, it could be 1 or 2 hours, but deep archive is minimum 12 hours. After 12 hours, you can get your data. So again, it's depend on your requirement, and I think they both are not replicating to another availability zone. Then this is the outpost. This is a new type of S3 storage introduced recently. This is basically if you have an application running anywhere. So AWS storage is reachable by APIs. The concept of API, application programming interfacing, and that application can put your data in AWS storage by using the API, and it and then this storage also have all that those leverages that you can apply for the data life cycle and durability and availability and encryption and that maybe you can apply security, IAM, identity access management. So so this was an overview about the S3 storage. So So this was the first thing that we have to discuss today, and the next thing is DevOps. We had this diagram in our uh, previous session. So this is an overview. We had a detailed discussion on this DevOps architecture. Basically, this is a quick overview that what type of components you can use if you wanted to build your DevOps infrastructure on premises or on cloud. But these are the different core players that are in market. So so this is a complete pipeline, how your developers are working. They are pushing your data to GitHub. Then Jenkins is doing its using some Ansible playbook for some deployments, Nara Cube for code inspection, Maven for application building. It's a Java application builder, and then you can build some containerization microservices, push them on a Docker Hub, then use the Kubernetes for orchestration. Then you can create different types of application deployment for different departments, just like QA and production or any other different pipelines you can create. And then end user could access it, and end user could report any issue to customer care, and then customer care hand over the issue to developers, and again the developers will follow the whole tool chain. And this is the complete DevOps tool chain, and QA team is also reporting to developers. So this is the overview of our DevOps. So how AWS is leveraging us with all these tools. So if you are building your AWS or DevOps environment on-prem, you need to do everything from scratch. I mean, you need some hardware, then some operating system, and then virtualization, and then Linux, and then different tools you have to deploy like Ansible or Jenkins or SonarQube. So if you wanted to use the AWS, so these are the different tools you can use to just like you can see there is a Git. So version controlling, for the version controlling, AWS code commit is an application, is a service by AWS that give your developers a leverage that they can commit their code on on uh, on this repository, and they can recover your application with different variants. So it will save each and every variant committed, and source code is fully managed by this application, just like it is just same like just you can say the GitHub. So this is the core of DevOps. And if developers push your application source code to somewhere just like code commit or GitHub, so then you need to continue integration, continuous delivery. So these are the different tools, just like AWS pipe code. So it is a CI/CD tool, continuous integration, continuous delivery. Mean you can build your CI/CD pipeline with different environments. Mean you need some dev environment, some QA environment, UAT, security testing, and any other, and then production. So you can move your code in all those build environment anywhere build environment by using this code pipeline. And this will pull your code from code commit. And then AWS code build is another tool that basically basically you cannot compromise comparison these tools with each other. They all have their own functionality. May someone need some different functionality, so they could use code pipeline. But code build is a service that code deployment on SaaS is a software as a service. Mean you create your web server or databases server, different environment on AWS cloud or anywhere else, and you wanted to push your code on that environment. You can also use the code build, and it will automatically do the auto scaling. Mean your user is accessing different users accessing the different environment, and in case of excessive load, your environment will be auto scale automatically. Then AWS code deploy, this is another service that push your code to dev test prod environment. It is another code deployment tool. And then AWS Code Star. Uh, it is same like you can say the code build, but it is another tool of creating a CI/CD pipeline, and you can integrate with any services available anywhere, reachable to internet. Then the microservices, if you wanted to deploy your own microservices, just like we had a talk about microservices or Docker and container concept. So Amazon EC2 Elastic Compute 2 is instance. It is a Linux instance. It could be a Linux instance or Windows instance. You can and AWS give you leverage by Amazon Elastic Container Service by pre-build uh, Docker enabled Linux machines to deploy your doc containerized application. You don't need to spend time on spinning up your EC2 instance and spin up the Docker and Kubernetes, and everything is up and running by default. You just need to administer it. And AWS Lambda, it is an upper layer of containerization. You can say you just need to write down the code, any well-known any programming language that is available, just like Python or Ruby or PHP or Java or .NET or Go or any thing, Node.js. So you just need to push your code to AWS Lambda, and AWS Lambda is basically orchestrated by Docker containerization services. Basically, on the ground level, they have Kubernetes orchestration tool, but they have not provided you the access. They just give you an interface to push your code and play it, and that will be available. So that is an amazing service. I mean, you don't need to take care of your infrastructure. Just build your code and put it in AWS and run it. So, and they will meter you as per your usage. If you are not using, they will not bill you. And then infrastructure as a code. This is a technology that leverage you to that save your time in order if you wanted to spin up your infrastructure on cloud. So you don't need to do everything one by one, step by step, clicks and typing anywhere what you need to do. You can write down a code. You have some YML file, something like this, by using AWS Cloud Formation tool. And if you wanted to spin up some environment on AWS Cloud for multiple users, the same environment, you can write down its code to provide the credentials to that code to access your AWS resources, and that will automatically spin up everything on AWS Cloud to save your time. And then AWS Ops Works. This is another infrastructure as a code. Like if you wanted to run any application on Linux machine or Windows machine, so for that reason, you spin up some EC2 instance on AWS, and you are deploying some databases service or web services or any other service that you need, some content management servicing. So that every time you don't need to do it, just write down the code in OpsWorks, and next time OpsWorks will automatically spin up your machine with all the available applications available you need, and this will save a lot of time for you. And then monitoring and logging, definitely if you have some infrastructure you would like to monitor it, then Amazon CloudWatch, mean the billing, mean you wanted to see how much your clock is going up, mean if compute is going up, your bill is going, they will bill you. So it will alarm you that your what is happening with your compute resources, and track everything that will it will alarm you. And AWS X-rays is analyze and debug running application. If you hosted your application in AWS, and you wanted to see some logs or any tracing, this will help you to get into the application or SaaS services and fetch up the your required data. And then AWS Cloud Trail, it is API call, and you can call it from your on-premises server or anywhere from API, and you can fetch about the logs and different trace log relevant information. And then platform as a service, it's a for a pass. There is an Elastic, AWS Elastic Benchstock. So it is basically another service that is easy to use service for deploying and scaling web application deployed on Java, .NET, PHP, Node.js, Python, Ruby, Go, and Docker. So mean you realize that most of the services are doing the same thing, but uh, different services have different billing model, and you have to decide which service could cost you less. So this benchmark uh, is you can compare it with the Lambda. Quickly it can spin up a development environment or production environment for the application that you build on Java or .NET or anywhere. You do not need to take care of or of baseline infrastructure. So this is the end of this presentation. Hashim, now it's over to you.
Thank you, Asim. Thank you very much. I think this was very helpful, especially that now we've done the DevOps pipeline in the previous sessions, and now we can overlap this into the services that are available by AWS. So I personally feel this was really useful and valuable. I see there are a couple of new faces in our session today. So I'll go over, and if any one of you would like to introduce yourself with the rest of us and share your interest in cloud technologies, we'll be delighted to have you. I'll take your name if you can introduce and share with us. So first we have Aftab. Sir, would you care to unmute and introduce yourself? Ji Aftab.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes, hi everyone. Thank you for having this presentation. I really enjoyed it and it was very informative for me. My name is Aftab Mohyuddin. and I work in IBM in the enterprise operations. So basically, I'm an enterprise operation professional, and I'm looking to upskill my knowledge with regards to cloud computing. So this was quite a bit of a helpful session for myself in learning a little bit about the AWS in the context of cloud computing. So thank you for having this presentation, and thank you for having me to attend this session.
Thank you. Thank you for your nice comments. And very welcome. Next, we have Minna Shahab Siddiqui. Ji, Minna Shahab Siddiqui. Next, we have Mudassar Aslam.
Thank you very much. It was a nice talk, and actually it was very useful. Okay.
Audio cutting up.
Hello, you can hear me? Can you ask me?
It is, but it sort of gets garbled. There's noise.
मैं असल मोबाइल से कनेक्टेड हूँ तो मेरी उसकी वजह से थोड़ा सा शायद हो बट आई ट्राई टू स्पीक फॉर दैट मैंने कहा था कि बड़ी अच्छी प्रेजेंटेशन थी काफी सारी इंफॉर्मेशन AWS की वो शेयर की है एंड आई थिंक इट्स वेरी यूजफुल
Dr. Mudassar, I think it's I hope it's not the case with me. Can anybody else hear? Asim, can you hear Mudassar?
No, there is some distortion. I think there is a microphone problem.
Dr. Mudassar, you can always type in the chat window if you have a comment or maybe a question. So we'll be happy to answer. Thank you for coming off mute. So next we have Zulfikar Ali Memon.
Assalamu alaikum. Can you hear me properly?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you so much, Mr. Hashim, and thank you so much, Dr. Asim. Basically, I work in National University of Computer and Emerging Sciences, FAST, Karachi campus. I'm working as a professor in the Department of Computer Science. My interests are actually agile and distributed systems. So these are quite a variety of different things. So I teach data warehousing and agile and these sorts of research. So I was eager. I'm actually learning these new things, DevOps and other things. So that's why I am here, and it's very knowledgeable and precise information directly given to point. That's very helpful. Really appreciate it for this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Zulfikar. I do want to quickly share my screen, and for the new members here, this is our website. So if you are interested or maybe you want to stay connected, I would recommend that you go to this website, spsnet.com/spinlabs. There are two forms available, faculty affiliate and student affiliate. So if you want to get on the mailing list, if you're not already there, you can click on this and submit this form. What that will do is our academic outreach team will then be sharing with you the contents and the upcoming sessions on a regular basis. Plus, we do have a couple of certifications listed here. So if you are interested, for example, in cloud, we have these learning opportunities which really represent industry certifications. These are IBM Cloud Portfolio because we're IBM business partners. And so we have these customer requirements, and we want the industry, the academia, to be skilled in these courses. So if you or your students or fellow colleagues are interested, we would highly encourage to go to this page, and there are details as to how to pass these exams available. And if you pass these successfully, we also reimburse the cost. Since nowadays it's like everything is so interconnected. If you are working on cloud, maybe on IBM Cloud, there are AI services available, there are IoT services available, there are cybersecurity elements in the form of network security, VPNs and whatnot. So you may be interested in learning about artificial intelligence, IoT, or cybersecurity. So if you go to these, there are also certification and courses listed here, IBM's Cloud Pak for data, Cloud Pak for automation, and so on. So this is something that we highly encourage if you want to become more industry relevant. These are the things that employers nowadays are looking. And if you need any help, coaching, and guidance, we'll be happy to provide that. So with this, I do want to give an opportunity to Dr. Mudassar Aslam. Maybe the issue is not there. If you care to unmute, share with the audience. And Dr. Mudassar Aslam. All right. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining. Thank you for the nice comments. We'll be having the next session in 4 weeks from now. And we are thinking to continue this series on microservices, DevOps, and container pipelines. So we'll be sharing with you the topic and the agenda in next few weeks. If you're interested in IoT, the immediate next session as to next Thursday will be on Internet of Things. So please look out for the emails of that also. Thanks again for joining and have a nice evening.